A few months ago, I decided to check out Halloween parties in rural Appalachia. I thought it would inspire my writing. I wouldn't say I was a stranger to small-town gatherings, but these felt different. I still can't shake that feeling. The first party was in an old wooden lodge. When I walked in, I smelled smoke from a fireplace. It was warm, but chill crept down my spine. The place was decorated with hand-carved pumpkins and flickering lanterns. It all seemed cozy, but the air felt heavy. Guests mingled, but I felt their eyes on me. Their laughter had a weight I couldn't understand. I noticed things that didn't feel right, and my heart began to race. As I wandered deeper, I overheard snippets of conversations. Whispers floated in the air, and glances were exchanged. I wanted to ask what was happening, but I didn't want to seem rude. Nearby, a woman smiled at me, but her gaze drifted past, as if I wasn't really there. I think she said something about old traditions, but the words got lost. I felt uneasy. I spotted the host. He stood in the center, wearing a fixed smile. Each time he glanced my way, I felt cold. Maybe he was just friendly? I kept telling myself that. But every time our eyes met, a shiver snaked down my back. I tried to shrug it off, reminding myself it was just a party. I went to more gatherings, each in different lodges. The same patterns appeared, curious glances, odd conversations. It was the same people, always. I wanted to fit in, but felt like an outsider. One night I stepped outside for some fresh air. I heard laughter coming from the woods. It sounded distant, disconnected from the party. I felt a chill sweep over me. It struck me as strange, but I thought maybe it was just the night air. Then there were the disappearances. Guests vanished for hours. They'd come back looking dazed, and no one asked where they'd been. I felt a creeping dread. Something was off. Was it local traditions or something darker? I wondered. But nobody wanted to explain. At the last party, I stood in the dim light, my heart pounding. I caught the host's eye again. He stepped closer and asked, "Do you really want to know?" I didn't answer. I felt frozen. The walls seemed to close in around me. I wanted to leave, but my legs wouldn't move. The laughter from the woods grew louder. Then I heard a voice ask, "Why are you still here?" I turned around hoping to see someone, but nobody was there. My stomach twisted with anxiety. I felt trapped in that lodge, surrounded by strangers who smiled too wide and laughed too loud. Everything felt wrong, and I didn't understand. I realized I might never understand the secrets hidden in those woods. I just wanted to go home. But something inside told me it was too late. The next day, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread from the party. I stayed in my cabin, pacing. Memories of strange conversations and unsettling eyes wouldn't leave me. I needed answers, so I decided to confront the host. I wasn't going to be a victim of whatever was happening. I made my way to the lodge. The path lined with tall trees, whispering secrets I didn't want to hear. When I arrived, the atmosphere was still heavy. The place was empty, a stark contrast to the night before. I scanned the room, searching for someone, anyone. Then I heard it. Soft whispers carried from a back room. Curiosity pulled me forward. I crept toward the sound, careful not to alert anyone. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open just enough to peek inside. The host stood there talking to a small group. I couldn't see their faces, but the tension in the air was palpable. They were hunched over a table covered with strange symbols I didn't recognize. My heart raced. What were they doing? Suddenly, the door creaked under my weight. The host turned. His eyes locked onto mine, and the words from last night echoed in my mind. "Do you really want to know?" Panic surged through me. I didn't want to find out. I wanted to leave. But before I could turn, the door swung wide, revealing the others in the room. They turned to me with unsettling smiles. "You shouldn't have come here," one of them said, her voice smooth but layered with something dark. "Curiosity has a price." I felt the walls close in on me. This was no ordinary gathering. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my feet felt glued to the floor. The host stepped forward, his smile broader than ever. "You're special, you know. Not everyone gets a chance to see the truth." I managed to speak, forcing out the words. What truth? He gestured toward the symbols. The woods have their legends, their power. You've felt it, haven't you? The pull of the unknown. You can be part of it. Before I could reply, the whispers grew louder, vibrating within me. I could see their eyes now, unblinking, expectant. My heart thudded in my chest. I needed to escape. Just as I turned to flee, a voice called out, softer this time. Stay with us, just for a moment. That voice. It felt familiar, maybe even comforting, but it only filled me with more dread. I bolted down the corridor, my breaths quickening. I could hear them after me, laughter echoing behind me, blending with the whispers of the woods. When I burst through the front door, I didn't stop. I sprinted into the trees, branches scratching at my arms, desperate to distance myself. I could still hear the laughter like they were playing a game. I thought I was free, but something told me that this wasn't over. Then everything went dark. I fell, tripping over roots, and all sound faded away. I woke up with a jolt, my back pressed against the cool, damp ground. Panic surged through me as I took in my surroundings. I was still in the woods, but now everything was quiet. Too quiet. The usual sounds of rustling leaves and distant animal calls were replaced by an unsettling stillness. I pushed myself up and brushed the dirt off my clothes. My heart raced as I glanced around, trying to recalibrate my senses. Memories of the lodge flooded my mind, and I could still feel the weight of their stares on me. What had happened? I stumbled to my feet, feeling the ache in my limbs. I needed to get back to my cabin. There had to be a way out of this nightmare. I took a deep breath, then started to make my way deeper into the woods, sticking close to the familiar path. But something was different now. The trees seemed taller, looming over me like silent watchers. I could almost feel their roots twisting beneath the ground, holding secrets I was not meant to uncover. I tried to shake off the feeling, but every few steps I glanced back, half expecting to see the host and his followers emerging from the shadows. Then I noticed it, a flicker of movement to my right. Without thinking, I turned to look. A figure stood just beyond the edge of the tree line, shrouded in shadow. I couldn't make out their features, but the way they stood sent a chill up my spine. Was it one of them? "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. No response. I took a cautious step forward, compelled to see who or what it was. But then they turned and began to move further into the woods, almost gliding. I felt a pull, something drawing me after them. I took another hesitant step. "Wait!" But they were gone. The silence swallowed my words, leaving me alone once more. Confusion gripped me. Should I follow? Part of me wanted to see, to understand, but another part screamed to turn back. I hesitated, and that's when I noticed a faint glow between the trees. It pulsed gently like a heartbeat. I felt an odd mix of fear and curiosity. What was it? As I moved toward the light, the whispers returned, faint but unmistakable. They wrapped around me like tendrils, almost inviting. "Join us, join us." I stopped. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't want to join them. I wanted to break free from whatever this was. But the voices tugged at my mind, weaving themselves into my thoughts, tempting me with promises I couldn't understand. In that moment of weakness, I took another step toward the glow. Maybe just a glimpse. That's when I realized it wasn't just a light. I saw shadowy figures gathering, standing in a circle. They were facing something in the center, but I couldn't make out what it was. A part of me screamed to run, yet something urged me to stay. I was teetering on the edge of something. I could feel it. Just then a loud crack shot through the air. I froze, heart pounding. I wasn't alone. Someone was behind me. Someone was watching. I whipped around, my breath hitching in my throat. The underbrush crackled behind me, and I squinted into the darkness. The shadows danced, but there was no one there. Just the suffocating silence of the woods mixed with the pounding of my heart. "Hello?" I called again, my voice trembling. My instincts screamed at me to flee, yet I felt rooted to the ground, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. Suddenly, the figure from before darted back into view, this time closer to me. I could barely see their features, but I sensed movement, a swish of fabric, the flicker of something in their hand. Panic rose like bile in my throat. Was this the same shadow I had followed? "Wait!" I shouted, my voice echoing in the stillness. The figure paused, turning slowly. It didn't speak, but the way it stood felt menacing, like it was weighing my next move. Before I could process my thoughts, it lunged at me, slipping through the shadows with uncanny speed. I stumbled back, heart racing, and spun on my heel. Every instinct urged me to run. I dashed into the thickest part of the woods, branches clawing at my skin. I didn't look back. I just ran. The glow behind me pulsated with every step I took, and the whispers intensified. "Join us." They lured me like sirens calling sailors to their doom. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block them out, but they echoed in my mind. I burst through the dense trees into a small clearing. My lungs burned from exhaustion, and I fell to my knees. The air was cooler here, and for a moment, I thought I had escaped. But as I caught my breath, I heard it. The sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, approaching from the direction I came. I scrambled to my feet, searching for a place to hide. That was when I noticed it. The remnants of an old stone fireplace at the edge of the clearing. It was a sign of life, of previous campers. I dashed behind it, peering out from my makeshift sanctuary. Through the trees, I caught a glimpse of movement. The figure was closer now, shrouded in darkness, scanning the area as if searching for something, or someone. My heart raced as my eyes darted around, looking for anything that could help me. But then I saw it. Something in the clearing's center. The object that had drawn the circle of figures earlier. It was a rough-hewn stone carved with symbols I didn't recognize. And at that moment I understood. This wasn't about me. It was about whatever that stone represented. As the figure moved closer, I noticed it wasn't alone. Shadows emerged behind it, closing in from all sides. My body froze. I was trapped, utterly exposed. Just then, the whispers erupted into a deafening roar. "Join us! Join us!" Panic surged through me as the stone began to glow brighter, illuminating the space with an eerie light. Everything went silent except for the thudding of my heart. They were coming for me. Then, everything went dark. I woke up with a jolt. My head throbbed, and I blinked against the darkness, the remnants of whispered voices still echoing in my mind. Cold dampness seeped into my clothes, and the musty scent of earth filled my nostrils. I was lying on the ground, the stone from before just a few feet away. But it no longer glowed. Instead, it had settled into an ominous shadow. Panic resurfaced, clawing at my insides. I scrambled to my feet, disoriented. Where had the figures gone? My heart raced as I searched the clearing. The woods were silent again, but the fear remained. Had it all been a dream? Or had I somehow escaped their grasp only to be lost in the darkness? I took a cautious step forward, confusion gnawing at me. That's when I heard it. A gentle hum, barely audible at first. It wrapped around me like a chilling blanket. I turned, my breath hitching as I saw the figure again, standing just beyond the trees, shrouded in shadows. This time it was still. No menacing advances, just an absence of movement. I thought about calling out again, but something stopped me. Did they even know I was here? The whispers had faded, replaced by another unsettling sound, the rustle of branches above, but I couldn't see what caused it. Taking a deep breath, I realized I needed to move. The longer I stayed, the more vulnerable I felt. I turned towards the edge of the clearing, but just as I took a step, the figure called out softly, its voice echoing like a distant memory. "Stay." I froze. Part of me wanted to run, but another part lingered, curious and scared. I turned gradually, my eyes darting around for any sign of danger. The figure raised its hand, revealing what looked like an old, weathered pendant, glinting in the darkness. "Come closer," it beckoned. "You need to see this." Caution battled with the strange pull from the figure, and I took another step forward. The pendant looked familiar, swirling with symbols that mirrored those on the stone. Suddenly a crack of thunder echoed from above, startling me. I looked toward the sky. Black clouds swirled like smoke, pressing down on the trees. Something was shifting in the atmosphere. That's when I noticed the ground beneath me beginning to tremble. I looked back at the figure, but it had vanished. My heart sank as the whispers returned, a chaotic chorus calling my name. Join us. Without thinking, I bolted toward the edge of the clearing. I didn't know where I was headed, but I had to escape this madness. The woods closed in around me, branches reaching out like fingers, and the ground shook with each hurried step. Then I stumbled into another small clearing and my heart sank. I found myself staring at a larger stone, even more elaborate than the first. The same symbols danced across its surface, glowing dimly in the twilight, and around it stood more shadows. They weren't just figures anymore. They looked like people, faces twisted in anticipation, eyes fixed on me. Fear washed over me, and I took a stiff breath as I realized this was just the beginning. I had to find out what they wanted. But as the shadows began to close in, I felt another wave of realization hit me. This isn't just about survival anymore. This is about understanding why I was chosen. And just like that, everything flipped. The ground beneath me cracked open and I was pulled down into darkness. I fell through the darkness, the cold air rushing past me. I braced for impact, but instead, I landed softly on damp soil. The ground felt alive, pulsing beneath me as I scrambled to my feet. My breathing quickened again as I realized I was not alone. Shapes moved in the shadows around me, but I couldn't see them clearly. A low murmur surrounded me, rising and falling like whispers carried by the wind. I strained to make sense of the sounds, trying to catch a familiar name, anything. But the words danced just out of reach. Panic surged within me again, and I felt the need to escape the unseen eyes lurking in the dark. I turned to my left, hoping to find a way out, but the shadows pressed in closer. My heart raced. I had to keep moving. I stumbled onward, trying to make out the edges of the clearing. This place felt different. The air shimmered with a strange energy. Then I noticed something glowing ahead. At first I thought it was more of the twisted symbols, but as I approached, I realized it was a figure. Not the one from before, but one that seemed more defined. This one looked human, with features I almost recognized but couldn't place. "Help," came a voice, soft yet charged with urgency. I couldn't see the figure's face clearly, but the desperation in its tone was palpable. "You must help us." Something about the voice made me stop. My instinct screamed at me to run, but curiosity anchored me in place. "Help you?" I called out, forcing my voice not to tremble. "What do you mean?" The figure stepped closer, and the glow illuminated its shape. I felt a ripple of recognition wash over me. It wore a pendant identical to the one the shadow had shown me before. "The stone," it said, pointing behind me. "It holds the power to free us. You have to unlock it." Confusion clouded my mind. Unlock it how? I felt a swell of uneasiness. What if this was another trap? The figure's expression shifted, a mix of pain and longing tightening its features. "The words need to be spoken," the truth revealed. It gestured again, and I hesitated before glancing back at the stone. It loomed behind me, casting eerie shadows that twisted just out of sight. But something else caught my attention then, breaking my focus. From the edge of the woods, more shadows emerged. They weren't just surrounding the figure, they were closing in on me. I took a shaky step back, a low growl rising from the darkness. My heart dropped as I realized these new figures looked menacing. Their intentions were anything but friendly. "Run!" the figure shouted, urgency snapping me out of my daze. I spun back to face the path ahead, adrenaline kicking in again. I bolted toward the stone, knowing I had only moments to act. A sense of purpose filled me, smashing through my fear. Reaching the stone, I gripped its surface, tracing the symbols with my fingers, desperate to unlock whatever secrets lay trapped within. Just then, a chilling howl echoed around me, piercing through the tense atmosphere. That's when I saw it. A dark silhouette, larger and more imposing than anything else around me, looming just behind the advancing shadows. Fear overwhelmed me, and I shouted into the void, "What do you want from me?" The response was silence. The ground began to tremble again, and I realized I had to make a choice. Would I confront the darkness, or would I succumb to the shadows creeping ever closer? As I braced myself for whatever was about to happen, I knew one thing for sure. I had to find the truth before it swallowed me whole. The ground shook violently, almost as if it were warning me. I could feel the energy from the stone pulsing through my fingertips, a warmth amidst the terror closing in around me. I had to say something. I had to do something. "Release them," I shouted, though my voice quivered. It felt silly and inadequate, but I didn't know what else to say. The glowing figure looked expectantly at me, its eyes wide with hope. The shadows shifted, and for a moment I thought I saw a flash of recognition in their malevolent shapes. They paused, their movements strangely synchronized as if they were considering my words. But then the chilling howl returned, louder this time, and the creatures surged forward, the weight of their intent pressing against me like a physical force. I couldn't waste time. I closed my eyes, willing the words to come. "I release you," I shouted again, and to my surprise, the air shimmered brighter around the stone. The symbols reflected my anxiety, glowing erratically like a heartbeat. The figure stepped closer. "You're almost there. Speak the truth. Speak." I swallowed hard. What truth? The ground beneath me rolled and panic threatened to overwhelm my senses. I took a deep breath, recalling the cryptic warnings from the shadowy figure earlier. "I don't know what you're fighting against, but you deserve freedom." As the words spilled from my lips, the shadows flinched, recoiling slightly. I felt a wave of understanding wash over me, as if the shadow figures were caught between two worlds, one I couldn't fully grasp. Their forms seemed less defined, wavering like reflections in a disturbed pond. "Keep going," the glowing figure urged, its voice stronger now. "Tell them you believe." "Believe," I yelled, the word drawing from some deep well of courage. "I believe you're trapped. I believe you're not alone." With each phrase, I noticed more layers of the shadowy forms peeling away, revealing smaller, human-like shapes within. I felt a shift in my own heartbeat, a connection sparking between us. But just as the shadows began to falter, the darkness behind them surged. The large silhouette lunged forward with terrifying speed. I stumbled backward, scrambling at the stone, my hands slipping on its surface as I tried to steady myself. "Don't look away," the figure cried. I forced my eyes open and faced the approaching dread. "I believe in your freedom," I screamed, calling upon some instinct I didn't know I possessed. The weight of my words hung in the air, mingling with the energy surrounding us. A blinding light erupted from the stone, illuminating everything for a split second, blinding me. I shielded my eyes, feeling my pulse race. When the light died down, the shadows halted. They were still, almost like frozen figures caught in a painful dance. Then a sound that was both a wail and a song echoed through the clearing. It pulled at something inside me, a memory or a longing I couldn't quite grasp. The dark silhouette loomed larger for a heartbeat before diminishing, its power waning amidst the overwhelming glow that now enveloped us. The ground shook one last time, but this time it felt like a release. "Now," the glowing figure urged, its voice breaking with emotion. "Speak the final words." Suddenly I realized I didn't know what those words were. I felt the darkness try to claw back, desperate to reclaim its hold. But then I recalled the pendant's glimmer. "I am here," I declared, raising my voice above the chaos. "I choose to stand with you. I will help you." The shadows began to flicker, shifting and reshaping as if they were leaning into the light. I couldn't back down now. I took a deep breath, ready to confront whatever came next, holding on to the power of belief. But just as the atmosphere shifted again, the ground beneath me opened wide, and I felt myself tumbling back into the abyss, the stone slipping from my grasp. The last thing I caught was the figure's outstretched hand, reaching for me, but then everything went dark. I didn't know how long I was falling. The darkness engulfed me, wrapping around me like an old quilt. It was suffocating, yet strangely familiar. I felt weightless, and for a moment, panic faded. But it was short-lived. Suddenly I hit solid ground, the impact jarring me back to my senses. I blinked, searching for familiar shapes in the darkness. The ground felt warm beneath me, almost alive. I pushed myself up, disoriented. The shadows from before were gone. I took a shaky breath, trying to calm my racing heart. There was no sign of the glowing figure, just the overshadowing darkness that seemed to fold in around me. Then I heard it, a whisper, soft yet distinct. "Help us." The voice floated through the air, echoing in my mind. I strained to locate its source. "Where are you?" I called out. My voice sounded strange in the silence, as if the air itself was holding its breath. "Help us." The whisper grew more urgent, tinged with a desperate need. The shadows began to swirl around me again, but they felt different this time. They weren't the chilling figures I had just faced. There was a sadness to them, a sorrowful weight that settled on my shoulders. As they coalesced, I could see more clearly. They were faces, distorted and broken, eyes wide with fear. Memories flickered through my mind. I recalled an old woman's stories about souls caught between worlds, her quivering lips spilling tales of families lost in valleys and haunted woods. I had heard the whispers in the night before, but I had never believed them until now. "What do you need?" I managed to ask, hoping my voice was strong enough this time. "Freedom?" They sighed in unison, the sound vibrating through the air like a cold wind. We were bound, betrayed. Suddenly, images filled my mind. A village, celebrations long forgotten. I saw the faces of children playing, adults laughing, then a dark storm rolling in. The visions morphed into chaos, the village consumed, and the shadows taking form as they were forsaken. This was their truth. It struck me then. I had to confront whatever had caused this. Maybe I had a part to play. "I will help you find peace," I declared, though doubt crept into my heart. "What must I do?" The shadows shifted, swaying with an energy that began to fill the air. "It is in the place of the binding," they whispered. "Uncover the breaking point. Break the chains." I felt a chill at their words. It wasn't just about releasing them. I needed to face whatever dark force had trapped them. I could sense it lurking, its treachery laced throughout the shadows. Just then, a sharp pain shot through me, and I staggered back. A form flickered in and out of focus, darker than the shadows around me. My body tensed with fear. I could barely make out glowing eyes piercing through the gloom. In that moment, everything within me screamed to run, but I couldn't let them down. "I won't abandon you," I shouted, though my voice trembled. The figure advanced, its presence suffocating, but I stood my ground. I had to face this darkness. I needed to unravel the binding that kept them trapped. With draws of courage, I channeled every ounce of belief I felt when confronting those shadows before. "You will not win!" I yelled into the void, my words reverberating against the stillness. That's when I saw it. Behind the figure, a flicker of light, the stone glowing faintly in the distance. My heart surged with hope. If I could reach it, maybe I could protect not just the spirits but myself as well. With a determined breath, I sprinted toward the light, the shadows swirling rapidly to keep me at bay. An unsettling roar echoed behind me, urging me to run faster. I wouldn't stop. I couldn't. I would find the truth, even if it meant unleashing the storm within. My feet pounded against the ground, each step fueled by adrenaline. The shadows writhed and lunged, but I couldn't let them slow me down. I reached the flickering light, and as I drew closer, the stone illuminated the area around it. It was beautiful yet eerie, intricate carvings twisting up its surface. The whispers grew louder, vibrating in the air, urging me to make contact with it. "Please," the voices were desperate now. "End the curse." I reached out, my fingers grazing the cold surface. Instantly, a surge of energy coursed through my veins. Memories invaded my mind, flashes of the darkness consuming that village, of loss and betrayal. I saw a figure, shrouded in shadow, wielding power over the innocent, the same creature that had haunted my attempts to flee. The moment my skin touched the stone, a vision engulfed me. I could see a ceremony, a gathering of the village to honor the land. But then a betrayal unfolded. The masked figure stood there, manipulating the crowd, twisting their fate. I gasped as realization hit me. The binding was tied to a choice made long ago, an unholy pact that initiated the horror I saw. "Break the cycle," the shadows cried as one, their voices mixed with sorrow and hope. I remembered the old woman's stories. This stone was a key, a remnant of their past. It was time to reclaim the power it held. I concentrated, channeling my fear into a force of will. "I refuse to let this continue," I shouted, as I summoned the anger and grief of those trapped souls. The shadows swirled violently around me, feeding off my determination. But the figure was still there, moving closer, its chilling presence threatening to swallow me whole. "You think you can change what has been done?" it growled, its voice low and malevolent. "I know I can," I shouted back. The warmth of the stone melded with my fear, and I could feel a crack forming in its curse. "You're not stronger than love. You're bound to your own treachery." Just then, as I spoke those words, the stone pulsed brighter. A rift shattered in the air, revealing the true essence of the spirits trapped, flickers of light emerging from the shadows. I felt the energy shift, and I knew I was close. With a final push, I drew upon every ounce of courage. "Freed souls, I stand with you," I cried, the stone glowing with such intensity that it illuminated the dark figure, revealing its twisted form. It recoiled, a howl echoing through the void. But just as I felt the triumph surging through me, the ground beneath began to tremble. A violent force erupted and I was thrown backward. I struggled to focus, the stone slipping from my grasp. "No!" I screamed, scrambling toward it. But the dark figure loomed, its form solidifying, blocking my path. Panic surged through me as I struggled to rise. I could see the light fading, my connection to the spirits fraying. Desperation clawed at me. I had to reach the stone. With every ounce of strength left, I pushed forward, ready to confront my deepest fear. If I didn't reclaim the light, they would suffer forever. As I lunged, shadows grasped at my feet, pulling me into the grasp of the darkness. "Help us!" I heard the voices cry one last time, but there was something else, an urgency that whispered a truth that rang clear. And that's when I realized I wasn't just fighting for them, I was fighting for myself. I woke up sputtering, drenched in cold sweat, gasping for air as if I had just surfaced from the depths of an icy lake. Sunlight streamed through the cracks of my cabin walls, illuminating the space around me. The familiar scent of pine mixed with the earthy dampness I had come to know in those woods. I blinked, feeling disoriented, but then it all came rushing back. The darkness, the stones, the whispers. I jumped to my feet, scanning the room for signs of the chaos I had just escaped, but everything was still. Did I really survive, or was I merely stumbling through another dream? Panic gripped me. There had to be a way to know if it was over. Taking a deep breath, I forced myself to face the door. I couldn't let another moment pass without discovering the truth. The woods outside felt laden with secrets, calling to me with a siren's song. My heart hammered in my chest as I stepped outside and felt the cool air wrap around me. I wandered down the path leading into the forest, the familiar sounds of rustling leaves and distant birdsong filling the air with a sense of normalcy. Yet as I walked, an unsettling awareness settled over my shoulders like a heavy fog. Shadows danced among the trees, and I shivered, glancing back over my shoulder, half expecting to see those twisted figures emerging once more. I came to a clearing where the memory of the stone still lingered. There was nothing there, just the silent remnants of what once was. A dull throb pulsed within me as I thought about the souls trapped in that otherworldly torment, shadows clinging to them like a bad memory. Did I free them? I whispered to the wind. Or are they still waiting for someone? As dusk began to fall, the daylight filtered through the trees with an amber hue. I felt a pull, an urge to venture deeper into the woods. My instincts screamed to turn back, but curiosity pushed me forward. I could almost hear the faint whispers again, soft yet insistent. "Join us." They wrapped around me like a familiar embrace, coaxing me toward the sanctuary of the shadows. The air grew cooler, and the light began to fade. I followed the path to the stone circle, each step heavy with uncertainty. As I approached, I noticed something unusual. A faint shimmer emanated from the clearing. My heart sank. I was not alone. Figures stood in the foreboding darkness, mottled silhouettes watching me with unblinking eyes. I froze, realizing the familiar faces within those shadows. They were the same people I had encountered at the lodge, faces filled with sorrow but now caught in eerie stillness. "Help us!" one voice echoed, soft yet powerful, and I felt my heart constrict. Were they trapped here? Or something more? I wanted to turn away, but their pleading expressions held me captive. The darkness felt enticing, like it was trying to weave its way into my thoughts. Maybe this was where they wanted me, entangled in the echoes of their pasts. "What do you want from me?" I asked, desperate for clarity, conflicted about the past. Their eyes began to glow, and suddenly I was transported back to the village, back to the moment of betrayal. The shadows surged, pulling me into a maelstrom of confusion, revealing glimpses of what had taken place. I saw the ceremony, their joy, swiftly eclipsed by a dark figure that wielded power over them, whispering sweet words of devotion that twisted into betrayal. The truth ran deeper than I could fathom. Every memory held pieces of the puzzle, glistening like shards of glass. The shadows moved closer, and I felt I must make a choice. "You have to show me what to do. I can help you, but I need to understand." Suddenly, a light sparkled in the depths of the clearing. The stone. I hadn't left it behind after all. Its power pulsed faintly, a call beckoning me forward to unlock everything that had been hidden. Without hesitation, I pressed my palm against the rough surface, feeling the coldness tingle beneath my skin. "I demand your truth," I shouted desperately, adrenaline coursing through me. "Release them." The shadows writhed, and then slowly began to crawl toward the stone as if pulled by an unseen force. The air thickened with tension, and just when I thought I understood, the darkness surged forward, trying to envelop me in despair. Then everything went white. When the blinding light subsided, I found myself once again standing in the clearing, alone but for the muted whispers lingering around me. I closed my eyes, bracing for the realization that I had failed, that the shadows would continue to haunt every corner of the woods without peace. But as I opened my eyes, I gasped. The air shimmered differently, brightly illuminated by a soft glow radiating from the stone. I could feel their presence, lighter and untethered, swirling around me with gratitude. They had been released from their cycle of despair. As overwhelming relief washed over me, I realized I still had questions. Had I truly broken the curse, or was it only a temporary reprieve? What lay in the future for those I freed? Would they still want me to help them, or would they find their own path? I turned to leave, the warmth of the sun breaking through the treetops. I might never know all the answers, and perhaps that was okay. I had changed, each whispered story woven into my mind. I would carry their memories with me, both a comfort and a weight, as I made my way back home, step by step. I moved to a different city after that. Sometimes I wonder if the whispers still linger in those woods, if the stone still glows. But mostly I try not to think about it, because some mysteries are meant to remain just that, unanswered, intricately entwined in the fabric of the unknown.